This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
OPEC Plus is likely to keep its oil output policy unchanged when the group meets on Wednesday and continue with its planned modest production increase, 3 OPEC Plus sources told Reuters. The Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and allies including Russia, collectively known as OPEC Plus, will meet on September 1 to discuss the previously agreed increase of 400,000 barrels per day, BPD, for the next several months. U.S. President Joe Biden's administration has urged OPEC and its allies to boost oil output to tackle rising gasoline prices that it views as a threat to the global economic recovery.
Oil slipped on Monday, giving up an earlier rally to a 4-week high, as Hurricane Ida weakened after forcing shutdowns of U.S. Gulf oil production, and OPEC Plus looked set to go ahead with a planned oil output increase. Within 12 hours of coming ashore, the storm had weakened into a Category 1 hurricane. Nearly all offshore Gulf oil production, or 1.74 million barrels per day, was suspended in advance of the storm. Brent crude was down 26 cents, or 0.4%, at $72.44 by 13:40 GMT, having reached $73.69 earlier, the highest since August 2. U.S. crude fell 9 cents to $68.65, having earlier touched $69.64, the highest since August 6.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Hurricane Ida pummeled U.S. Gulf Coast energy suppliers, knocking out most of the region's offshore wells, nearly half its motor fuel production and closing energy export ports. The storm moved into Mississippi on Monday after leaving a trail of destruction in Louisiana and rampaging through U.S. offshore oil and gas fields. Hundreds of oil production platforms were evacuated and more than 1.3 million homes and businesses in Louisiana and Mississippi were without power. Production losses, including at 6 Gulf Coast refineries, will lift retail gasoline prices by 5 to 10 cents a gallon, tracking firm GasBuddy said. Crude oil eased on Monday after an earlier rally to a 4-week high.
The Federal Trade Commission will seek to deter unlawful mergers in the oil and gas industry and crack down on practices that may be harming consumers at the gasoline pump, FTC Chair Lina Khan told the White House in a letter last week. The letter, obtained by Reuters, was addressed to White House economic advisor Brian Dees and promised to start an investigation of abuses in the franchise market for retail fuel stations, among other steps. Khan told Dees she was concerned that the FTC's approach to merger reviews in recent years had enabled significant consolidation in the industry and created conditions ripe for price coordination and other collusive practices. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. For many affluent young Chinese consumers, modern simplicity is out and tradition is back in when it comes to jewelry. Sales of gold bracelets, pendants, earrings and necklaces that draw on dragons, phoenixes, peonies and other traditional Chinese patterns and symbols are flying among consumers, especially those in their 20s and 30s, helping drive a rebound in gold demand in the country after a pandemic-induced slump. An e-commerce boom and national pride are fueling the rise in demand for what is known as heritage gold jewelry, which requires intricate craftsmanship and can command premiums of 20% or more over conventional gold jewelry, industry executives say.
Shanghai aluminium prices climbed on Monday to their highest in more than 13 years on supply worries in China and upbeat sentiment after U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell struck a more dovish tone in a long-awaited speech. The most traded October aluminium contract on the Shanghai Futures Exchange rose as much as 4.2% to 21,550 yuan, $3,332.41 a ton, its highest since August 1, 2008, before easing slightly to close at 21,495 yuan a ton, still up 3.9%. A prefecture in China's Xinjiang region has imposed output limits on 5 aluminium smelters starting from August as part of efforts to stamp out illegal production. The move followed several aluminium output disruptions due to power curbs in China earlier this year.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
Russian wheat export prices rose for the seventh consecutive week last week, tracking price increases in Chicago and Paris, the IKAR agriculture consultancy said on Monday. Russian wheat with 12.5% protein loading from Black Sea ports for supply in late September or early October was $299 a ton free on board, FOB, at the end of last week, up $4 from the previous week, IKAR said in a note. Russian wheat needs to move lower to compete with other origins, another consultancy, Sovcon, said. It pegged wheat and barley prices down by $1 to $298 per ton and $262 per ton, respectively.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.